We're golden, brother.
All right. Let's see. We're good to go here.
I think we're in, man.
Are we? All right. Let me try to
Yeah.
let me pull up the page here so I could see people rolling.
Got a couple of analog guys, trying to do digital work here, brother. But I think we're in, man.
That's what we're in, man.
I got you on Facebook over here, brother.
All right. Let's see. I got you on the.
Couple of strong Rangers trying to be smart here, man.
Here we go. Okay, there it is. Let's see. Ah, there we go. All right, we got some people rolling in now. Let's see here.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Pop into this bad boy. There we go. Okay, there it is. All right, we're in there.
Awesome.
In there like swimwear, as they say.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, brother, the Ron and John show is virtual, man. It's
Here
awesome.
we are. We figured it out.
Yeah. So how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I've been busy as ever with this whole lockdown thing on the VLG side, on the education. I thought this was supposed to be our busiest month. As you know, you and I were gonna do a couple of trips.
Yeah.
But where I was gonna have about, I think it was projected that I'd be home for about 4 days. They're keeping us busy, man. We're doing we had this week alone, we have 7 classes. And in one day, we educated over 100 real estate agents. And in the past week, we've educated over 150 service members and veterans. So been doing that, and to stay kind of sane from, going stir crazy. Man, I started a garden in the front. I got some new pets, the peanuts. I feed the squirrels because I don't have any friends that come by. Cooking like crazy. So it's been good, just getting caught up here, which I'm, it's nice because I just moved into this place and haven't had much time to get everything going and set up. But I'm loving it. How about yourself? How are you and Sandra holding out here?
We're doing phenomenal. We're doing what is expected, what every American should be doing right now. We're executing prudent risk. We are doing our social distancing, and we are following the guidelines of the stay-at-home or shelter-in-place. We are not doing woe is me. This is not a lockdown by any means. I mean, Sandra just ran out to Big Lots to get some stuff that we needed. And, so we're just doing business and spending time together. I'm still doing a lot of stuff virtually, like a lot of folks. I'm still training like a madman, even though, I'm kind of stuck in my garage gym, which is growing by the day and ready, for any visitors now to come and get on my Atlas stones and everything. I still go out and do my runs and everything. So life is good. And I think this is an opportunity for all of us to kind of reflect on the things and the people that are important to us and in our lives, so that being our families, our friends, and then our health, and continue to live life every day, and not forget who we are and what we should be doing. You brought up about the VA home loan boot camps and everything.
Yeah.
One thing that will not change unless all of a sudden we have a dramatic stop loss is that over the 6 months, 100,000 service members and their spouses are going to transition.
That's right.
And so we still, organizations like ours, veterans lending groups and others that support veterans, we got to continue to get after the mission of making sure we ease their transition. And when they look to do things like, what I did when I transitioned, I wanted to be a homeowner, that we get after, looking at organizations like Veterans Lending Group to help us do that, you know, because that's, unless there's just a stop loss and we're not going to allow people to get out. Now I got my blue ID card already. Okay. So, I mean, you know, I am who I am now. I am retired, but, you know, so we gotta continue to get after the mission. So I think that's what we got to continue to focus on as we move forward, brother.
No, 100%. And, you know, I've, as we both know, you know, the PCS and TDY, you know, took a big knee for now. But, you know, as far as I understand, what has not stopped or slowed is, you know, are those transitions and folks, you know, retiring and ETSing and separating again, because, you know, there is no stop loss. There's no really, I mean, I'm sure they could do it, but there's not a big halt on everything, you know, military, that exodus, right, when they have to leave. So, and which, you know, as it is with the TAPS and ACAP and stuff like that, I mean, it's pretty rushed as it is, you know, and right now I feel that there's a lot of transitioning service members that are also at a loss of what do I do next, and kind of scrambling to figure it out, you know, especially as we're facing, you know, these you know, jobs and, you know, unemployments and stuff like that. So, you know, and those are things that we touch base on a little bit in the VA Home Loan Boot Camp, but, you know, not a lot of folks know. In fact, I'm just a little bit ago, I got a text message from an E6, okay, who's transitioning out, who is going to be waiting on a slot to be an officer and switching to the Air Force to be a pilot, right? Good stuff, you know. It's still a good team, right? But he was just asking me. I said he's for a you know, what can he do as far as employment to fill that gap? And, you know, this whole thing kicked off, and I was just like, man, brother, you know, we're gonna connect you as soon as we can, but are you aware of the unemployment benefits? He had no idea. So, you know, and he doesn't know how much it is and all that stuff. So another resource we're going to do, I've got another buddy of mine that I want to introduce you to, Jose Ortiz. He works here at the local work source, and works with unemployment and finding jobs for vets and stuff like that. So we can, you know, get some education and get some real meaning of what does that mean for service members, and what are their true benefits, as far as, you know, to kind of bridge that gap a little bit until the employment gets back online, you know. I know when I first got out, it was you know, this is back in the day when we didn't have a clue on what, we'll figure it out, as we say. And when I went to go just say figure it out, you know, it was unemployment for about 4 months until I was able to land something. But and in addition to that, and I think, you know, we talked about bringing some guest speakers on, you know, which obviously that's the theme that we want to do. We're just kicking this one off, you and I, today. But I'd like to bring Billy on next week, you know, Billy Knight, you know, and
from the VA.
From the VA, and talk about, well, what does that mean right now? What is the VA doing during this time, and what can folks, where can they go if you know, are they slowing down with what they have going on? And a lot of times, they can actually, because he was going to do this for me, is walk someone through virtually on how to file their claims and get everything filed online. And then once they get the medical records, then they can do their thing. So there's a lot of things that I think that we can do that I don't feel that anyone is thinking about. I don't think that anyone's thinking about those things forward thinking. I think right now it's just kind of like, well, shit, let's just wait it out, you know? Which with this, when in this situation like this, that's the wrong answer. And that it comes back to the theme that you and I spoke on about at Fairchild, right? Is why me, right? What's, you know, the why me? If not me, then who, right? And here I am, send me, right? And taking those pieces and moving it forward. You know, having folks like yourself, especially you, John, still, you know, running forward, you know, in the front lines with that guide on and saying, hey, this is what's important. Yes, obviously, you know, our national security is important, you know, but also I like how you put that as, you know, someone that's almost 40 years in the military, is in the Army, is you didn't think about yourself when you were transitioning, right?
Well, I did the minimal kind of stuff, that people were telling me. So first of all, I mean, you get, so much information in these transition classes that, they say you got to do this at a certain time, you got to do that at a certain time. And, plus, I had a day job as being the 𝗙AC,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and, and it really hit me in August of last year when I went to an executive transition course at Fort Leavenworth, and I had 90 days left in my job and really in the Army, and all of the classmates I had there, some of them had like 2 years left, and they were well ahead. So I was well behind the power curve. And oh, by the way, on 30 September, got a new chairman, had a new Secretary of Defense, and everybody was focused on the future and everything. And I'm like, well, shit, man, I got like 60 days left,
Yeah.
and then when your boss says, hey, Thanksgiving we're going to spend it overseas with the troops and everything, and you got to do what you got to do. And so 2 weeks after I came back from Thanksgiving, I was no longer the 𝗙AC and I was transitioning. But thanks to a lot of good people, first of all, I had a good team around me that helped me out and helped me through my transition. Plus, the agencies helped me out and everything. And then when I got out here to the, Joint Base Lewis McChord area, folks like, Mike and Brooke Villano, my realtor Candace Day, and a lot of folks really helped Sandra and I out. And it was a seamless transition, as seamless as we could make it, to transition into retirement. So, but it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be, hey, jump through my ass. And I think, if I had to do it over again, I would have pulled my head out of my ass and I would have started, 24 months out on my transition. Because, I knew that on 30 September 2019, we were getting a new chairman.
Mhm.
I knew in July of 19, we had a new Secretary of Defense, and I knew that folks were, with everything going on in the world, that, the train was not going to slow down. And so maybe I was a little behind the power curve on that, but it all worked out for me in the end. But,
Yeah.
generally you don't have those kind of stories when you start late. So I think the
No.
message to the folks out there that are on is that if you're a transitioning service member, 24 months out is when you need to start thinking about what you're going to do. Even if you may not be, you're still on the fence. Should I stay in? Should I get out? Should I retire? Should I not retire? Or if you're a senior leader, enlisted leader, for example, and you're in a job and you know that you got 24 months left, even as you're executing this job, you still got to do things to make sure that you can transition. Because the Army especially, and this is a rule that I disagree with, and I've had this discussions with the previous Sergeant Major of the Army and the current Sergeant Major of the Army, is why is there a primary change of responsibility for a senior enlisted leader that works for a general officer? And if they don't have another job, they have to be out 90 days after that. Because in order to get benefits delivery at discharge, you got to start your process 180 days out. So what we're forcing senior enlisted leaders, especially, to do is that last 90 days they're in their job, they're trying to do their retirement and do the job at the same time. Meanwhile, the commander generally is still doing the job and pushing forward and probably has another job after that already programmed. So I think we got to make it easier as we move forward. And I voiced this to the senior leaders of the department and in the Army that, hey, look, when we need to give somebody 180 days so that they get through that entire VA process while they're on active duty, so they get benefits delivery at discharge.
I 100% agree on that. And, that's like when we're talking with Billy, that 180 days out, it's critical because you have to, that's when you get everything to fall in line and everything like that. And just talking real quick about the retiring or that separation and what does that look like for home ownership? Just because we had a client this morning who's med boarding right now, for example. Okay.
Yeah.
Med boarding, they have an ETS date of 28 May, right? And they've done everything they were supposed to do. They've got their you know, their compensation is all squared away. Everything's right up to the butt of the date that they should be getting out. And we're working with the VA and getting some documentation to get them pre-approved with what the VA has in the system prior to their VA award letter, because there's a few things that we can do if we get the proper documentation. But someone like that was, you know, typically all med boards, right? It's a okay, here's what your situation is, and they kind of they take care of that, you know. And Billy over here does a great job with that, leading that team. But those that are not in a med board, right? That 180 days out is crucial, because you don't know if you're going to have a job lined up now. And look at what's happening right now, right? This veteran family now, they don't have anything lined up, but with everything that they're getting, they're still able to get into a home. But they would have not known that otherwise, right? And then so doing that, but also the reason why they're able to do that is because they are in that transition battalion, right? They're in that med board platoon, or whatever, you know, each branch or a base calls that. But the command, right? So the command supporting it, and you know, you'll hear Billy beat this up and down, is that, you know, you know, sending someone to do a jump, you know, 90 days out, right? Or doing some extraneous stuff, or even if it's a deployment to damn Yakima, right? And just is setting up that service member for failure. It really is. And the thing is it's a hard position to be in. You know, I've had the opportunity when I was in the Ranger Battalion to see what goes on at the senior leadership levels, and all the, you know, the train, like you said, the train doesn't stop, the mission will always continue. So you got a first sergeant that might be sitting there like, well, you know, I get that this is one who's transitioning out. Either they put their assets on a bunch of detail, or the ones that can still contribute to the mission that they can. And but you know, but it's still, they're getting the pressure from up top, and then from up top, you know, it's getting that. So I think that with what we're aiming to do this year together, hopefully we can shed some light on, you know, senior leadership at the top, so they can say, oh, okay, there is a disconnect, or there is a problem in it. Because I remember sitting talking with you one of our first times that we sat and chatted, and I'll never forget it, John. The look on your face was like, shit, I had no idea this was going on, you know. And as a SEAC, you know, and how would you know? Because you're focused on the mission today and right now, and what's going on in the damn world, not what's going on, you know, the next phase. But now that you're experiencing it yourself, you know, now obviously you're championing that.
2 weeks before my transition date, I'm in Afghanistan with the chairman and the president of the United States. You know, I had no idea, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, poof, 2 weeks later, I'm heading out here to the Pacific Northwest, you know. Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you, brother. Yeah.
And that goes to show that it doesn't mean that it's just, you know, whoever, and for everybody that's on here, it doesn't mean that it's just because you're a E4, E5, E6, E7. Absolutely. I mean, this shit is happening all the way up to at the highest levels, you know, of the position that you just left as CX. So which is interesting, you know, and as you know, the VA don't give a damn about the appointment if you missed it or not. What was that story with General Dunford?
Well, yeah, I mean, my previous boss, he had an appointment with the VA, and all of a sudden the White House called and the president said, I need to see you, you know? And so he missed an appointment, you know, and then the staff went back to try and reschedule an appointment. They said, hey, look, he's got to get to the end of the line. And, you know, they're trying to say, hey, look, this is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, you know, he had a meeting with the president of the United States. Yeah, okay, he still gets to the end of the line. The point being is, you know, the VA is moving out, and if, you know, and you gotta be on it, because the minute you start missing things, pretty soon you're doing catch up, man.
You know, and I think it's good.
You know, this brings me back to, you know, what's going on in the world right now with the coronavirus and everything. And I got a message today, because you and I both, man, you know, we're members of this warrior class, and we've been for years and everything. And there's so many others out there that are exactly like us, and family members that have been through crisis before with their military member. You know, I look at this virus much like I look at an operational deployment or an environment where there's an enemy. And it's certainly over the last 20 years since 9/11, you know, this insurgent type threat that blends in with the population, and it's hard to see and everything. I mean, this is what this virus is. But, you know, I've constantly, I'm getting notes. People are forwarding me, you know, just ludicrous messages that says things like, hey, you know, the Homeland Security is going to mobilize the entire military to guard food banks, you know, or stuff like that. And I'm thinking, this is the biggest crock of horse shit I've ever seen in my life, you know?
Yeah.
And then somebody I really respect, there's a true friend of mine, sent me a text today and said, hey, how can you be so casual during this crisis? And I thought, you know, we don't stop living, you know, through anything like this. Adversity is just part of being human. You're going to face adversity somewhere in your life. And it's not that you don't have adversity, it's how do you deal with it? Mm-hmm. So here's how we deal with it. And so we follow the rules and do everything. And you know me, man, I am a happy-go-lucky guy. And maybe I've been living my age, you know, but I had just been happening to live, you know, or listening to the song Save It for Later, you know, and, you know, both versions by, you know, the original band, the English Beat and Tim Time Bomb. And so finally, and, you know, and I always use this phrase, you know, when you're waiting around for something that isn't going to happen, it's like leaving the porch light on for 𝗔𝗵𝗲, you know, and knowing that he's never going to come home.
Not coming back. Yeah.
Don't know where he's at, but you know he's not coming home. And so when people continue to inquire to me why I might have a casual attitude, I don't have a casual attitude. I just understand that here's what the risks are, you know, both to, you know, in a military context, the risk to the force, the risk to the mission, and then how do I mitigate that risk? Well, I've listened to my leaders, you know, the governor of Washington. I'm listening to the administration tell us this is what we should do, this is what we can do. And then my wife and I, Sandra and I, we do that. You know, I don't sit around and I ain't on a lockdown, brother. We ain't on a lockdown. I think you and I both know what a lockdown is. And when you're on lockdown, I was on a lockdown in an orderly room when I was a first sergeant in the 82nd Airborne Division, and I slept on a cot in that orderly room, and my wife had to bring me food because I could not leave. I had a cot and I had a toilet, man, and that was it. So this is definitely not lockdown, but some people will look at it that way because it's the kind of way that they view life and they view lens. I'm just not that way. I look for, this is just another challenge in front of us. How do I mitigate the risk to me, to my family, to others? How do I make sure I'm not part of the problem? I'm part of the solution. And then let's continue to live life, you know? And that's what we've been doing here, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been seeing you with the karaoke and then you know, going from one bar to the other, which is your living room, to the great room.
That's right. You know, we need to get a karaoke show on here, Ron and John show. I tell you what, we need to get some folks on here. We need to get a virtual karaoke show on here, you know, because there are folks out there that are just like me, and karaoke is not American Idol. I think we all know that. Ron, you and I spend a lot of time, you know, at 𝗲𝗏𝗪𝘆's karaoke. You know, my good friend Anita Vargo is always there with us. And, we ought to do it on the Ron and John show.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
Somebody from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, or somebody like that, get them on here, sing a song, and then at the end, however many karaokeers we have, let's send them a signed entrenching tool by John Wayne Troxell and a Veterans Lending Crew hat or something like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, just make it fun, man.
And that's what it's all about is mixing it up and things. And I think that, you know, service members especially, you know, and veterans is we can make fun out of nothing. You know, it's just like a kid's picking up a stick and turning it into a gun or something, right? I mean, I've been into a lot of situations where it's hurry up and wait, you're bored as hell, and you know, if your squad leader or platoon sergeant isn't screaming out for you to do skits, you get creative, you know, and to figure something out. And but yeah, I feel the same way. I don't feel locked down. You know, I go do the things that I need to do. I get out in the garden, or I run out to the store and stuff. Or I'll just take a drive or do a run, go on a run or something. But you know, and that's it's freeing a little bit. But you know, it's kind of when you get out there, it's kind of you have your. I'd say my senses are a little more heightened though, right? I mean, like kind of what you were talking about when you leave your gate, right? What that feeling, right? Can you explain? Go into that real quick.
Yeah. So yeah, Sandra and I get in my Tahoe, and the minute I crank it up, you know, it's like, all right, have we done our pre-combat checks, pre-combat inspections? I'm backing out, and I'm heading, and the gate is opening in our gated community here in Madeira Estates. And it's the hair on the back of my neck is standing up because it feels like I'm leaving the gate of Taji, Iraq, or at Warhorse in Bakuba, Iraq, or in Kandahar or Kabul, you know, and because I know somewhere out there is a hidden threat, and that hidden threat is this very dangerous and deadly virus. And I just got to make sure that I'm on point and my wife is on point, you know, and everything, and that we're doing the things that are expected of us. You know?
Right.
And not focus on the negative. Let's focus on the positive as we move forward. And that's the way we've been getting after this, you know. And like you said, I mean, we got the bar in the TV room, the karaoke room. We got a bar in the great room. We got a nice chimney outside and a fireplace that can double as 2 other bars. And we got a hot tub room. So we're living large, you know, and when all of this is said and done, you know, we look to host a lot of our friends, you know, and the Veterans Lending Group team over here as we, you know, get back after normal life after all of this is over with. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to get after the things we should be doing and making sure we're part of the solution and not the problem. Hey, so do we got some folks on, Ron, that want to talk about some things?
Let's see. We've got, Gina Luplow. Gina, hello. Gina's awesome, first of all. Thank you for coming on.
And I'm doing flutter kicks now because I was supposed to call her today, but I was too busy doing practice calls with one Ron O'Farrell today. So
I own that, Gina. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know Gina, she has one of the biggest hearts that she's active at events. She works with the USO Northwest. And which I believe we have you locked in for 17 October to be the keynote speaker there. And in fact, she just mentioned something when we were talking about transition, that she's going to get us linked up with Angela over at USO Pathfinder. So we can probably do a little bit more partnership on there. And we had I had heard from her before all this kind of stuff went down, but to see what we can do together, right? Because we do have a partnership with them, but their mission has changed, you know, kind of over the years. But I think now is the time to kind of re-cement that and see what's going on. We've got, let's see, go ahead. Adam Besenson says virtual happy hour needs to be part of virtual karaoke. I agree.
Hey, I'm all in, brother. You know, it's all we're all in. So I will tell you, Adam Bezanson can get on a microphone too, and so can his wife Jessica. You know, so
they get after it like that, huh?
Oh yeah, we've served together in Korea. We've served together here at Joint Base Lewis McChord when I was the First Corps Sergeant Major, and you know, they are very good friends of Sandra and ours, and so virtual happy hour, we can do that too.
Nice.
Hey, so
nice.
What do you think of some of the events going on in the world, Ron?
You know, it's interesting. When we say events, what are we talking about? Just the shit show that we're dealing with?
Well, so I'm you know, for 38 years serving in the military and having great friends that are in the Navy and some of the most senior leaders in the Navy. They've been on my minds a lot lately, because I will tell you, you know, the events this past week with the Teddy Roosevelt have been on my mind. As a matter of fact, it was 2 years ago during a USO tour that Sandra and I, along with a bunch of celebrities and the chairman and his wife and others, you know, we went on to the Teddy Roosevelt for a USO show. and seeing all of those sailors and Marines on that vessel, and the hard work they're doing. And if you want to know how we continue to win this long-term power competition, it's through having the greatest Navy on the planet. And to see what the Navy has been going through this whole week, they've been on my minds. And I just want every shipmate out there to know that, you know, hey, God bless you. Keep after the mission. Know all of us back at home. You know, like, you know, I was telling the folks up at Fairchild when we went up there, Ron, hey, I'm the guy that when you leave on deployment and when you come home on deployment, I got the cardboard sign saying, we love you and God bless you now. This is your fight now, and you're going to get my support. But, you know, I just feel for them, you know, and, you know, I will tell you that just, you know, John Wayne's opinion, you know, the commanding officer of the ship, I think he was a little out of line there. I don't think he should have been thumped by the acting Secretary of the Navy. I think that could be handled at a much lower level through the Carrier Strike Group commander or the Pac Fleet commander or something like that.
Right.
But in the end, I felt that he needed to be disciplined for that.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, you know, that the acting Secretary of the Navy's actions, first of all, Leadership 101 tells me this, and this is one thing I learned as the SEAC. You're at the strategic part of the Defense Department. And if you think that you are going to have more influence on the warriors at the tactical level than the leaders at the tactical level, then you really ain't, you're not seeing the world the way it is. And to think that, you know, and Acting Secretary Mobley, to think that he can fly 8,000 miles, get on the Teddy Roosevelt, get on an intercom, and think that he is going to change the minds of those warriors on that vessel about how they felt as their commander, I think that he failed Leadership 101 there. And in the end, hard decisions have to be made. And as a leader, if you make a hard decision or an unpopular decision, but in your mind you think it's the right one, then make the decision and leave it alone. You know, I think he took a little offense at the way the sailors supported the commanding officer when he left. And I will tell you my opinion and in my experience, that transcends just raising the coronavirus issue. That to me shows that he was probably a pretty good commanding officer that the sailors truly loved and respected.
Right.
Okay. And you have to expect that, you know, as you and I have talked before, you know, when you're down in the dirt or you're out there in the high seas and the leaders out there that are making decisions, those are the ones that you look to for purpose, motivation, direction, and inspiration and guidance. And to think for Mobley to think that he could fly 8,000 miles and change their minds, you know, certainly just berate the commanding officer that just got celebrated off of the ship by the crew. And then, you know, to a certain extent, be critical of the crew. JV move, brother. JV move. And in my opinion, he failed Leadership 101 there. And, you know, I told some folks I was on another meeting with the other day, I didn't think he would last out the week. And you see where we're at now. But my message to all our shipmates out there, God bless you. We back home love you. You're the greatest Navy in the world. Keep after the mission. You're forged by the sea, and it's because you own the sea, and keep after it.
David Carter says, we need some more joint influence on here. Go Navy. And Adam Bazinson says, that's how we're doing our distance learning at the Academy through what we're doing here. And he said, again, good point. And then got a question here from Ed Sullivan. It says, I had a question for John. Did you know when you first joined back in 1982 that you were going to be a career soldier, and what motivated you to stay in for as long as you did, may I ask? Great question.
No. So, you know, I grew up in Davenport, Iowa, the West End. Go West End if any of my fellow West Enders are on here. But I joined the military because I really had no purpose or direction. I graduated high school, but, you know, I was not going to go to college and everything. So, and I saw these guys out of our neighborhood that were coming back from the Army and the Marine Corps. And I saw how they were brimming with confidence. and just, you know, they were sinewy muscular coming back, which tells me they were in great shape. One of them happened to be my older brother, you know, who was one of the baddest guys in the neighborhood to begin with. And he came back from Army infantry training, and holy shit, you know, I thought we were going to have to, you know, put him in a cage because he was such, you know, just this sinewy muscular animal, you know. And I said, I want some of that. So I joined the military with the intent that I was going to do 4 years, get the education money, and I was going to go back home to Iowa and I was going to do something. Well, things change. And unfortunately, generally it's because of a woman on a man's part.
Is it the one that keeps stalking you around the house?
Yes, the one that, you know, went from this shy, unassuming Mexican girl that I met on the 1st of February, '83, to who now they wrote a song about her. She's sweet but a psycho, you know.
They're like that, man. Brother, they're like that. They're spicy like this for a reason.
We met and we started dating, and before long we were expecting our first child, and we got married, and then I knew then, the minute I got married and that I was expecting a child coming up, I knew now I had more than individual responsibility. Now I had family responsibilities that I had to take charge of.
Right.
So we went to Germany, and we did our tour in Germany, and my first tour was coming to an end. And, you know, I wanted to get out of the Army. And you know why I wanted to get out of the Army, Ron?
Why? Tell me.
That important decision, because I had to watch football at 2 o'clock in the morning in Germany. And so, you know, I kind of told Sandra I wanted to get out of the Army as we were getting down to the end of our first enlistment. And she said, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. We'll figure it out. When we get back, we'll move back to Iowa and everything. And she wouldn't talk to me for 2 or 3 days because she knew I didn't know anything else but to be a soldier. And she knew I was
interesting.
The only thing I was good at. So finally I told her, all right, I'm going to re-enlist, but we're going to go where I want to go. And she said, where was that? I said, the center of the universe, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And so I went to the 82nd Airborne Division, and I got around an organization of alpha males and piranhas that if you acted like a goldfish there, you were going to get ate up, and you had to be striving for everything you did. You had to be brimming with pride. And that after that, my career took off. And I said, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And then as I got down close to my retirement, a very good mentor of mine, former Sergeant Major of the Army, 𝗥 told me, look, if you're going to stay in beyond 20 years, stay in as long as you can, because you'll make yourself a lot more marketable as you move up through the ladder. Now, I never thought that I would spend 20 years as a Sergeant Major and then eventually serve as the 𝗙AC. I just wanted to continue to excel, get more responsibility, and give back to this institution that gave so much to me. And next thing you know, I retired with 37 years, 10 months, 29 days from a guy when he was 18 years old that said, I'm going to do this for 4 years and then get out. So the moral of the story is Sandra Jimenez is the one that kind of put me on the right track. And without her, I would have never got to where I got to. And so I'm proud that we've been married going on 37 years this year, and that she's been by my side the whole time. So awesome. The answer to the question is, I didn't think I would stay beyond that first tour.
David Carter says, thank God for military spouses. Mine has been supporting me for over 30 years.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, great. Absolutely. And you know, I think as we move forward in the coming weeks, Ron, we need to have some military spouses on here.
I absolutely agree.
I'll get Sandra in here. I may have to get her to, you know, take a shot of Fireball or something to get her in front of the screen. But once you get her in front of the screen, you know, she'll liven up the show and everything, you know.
Virtual happy hour.
Yeah, get some military spouses on here and let them talk about, you know, transition. Let them talk about life in the military and everything. And then I think we even go further and talk about some critical issues that you and I talk about all the time, like traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress, or some of the other key issues that affect our military that you know, in my opinion, there's still huge stigmas out there for people to come forward when they are suffering from some of these conditions.
I 100% agree, you know, and I think the VA is starting to see that as well, with some of the new policies that they're coming out with,
Yeah.
you know, when someone is is an excellent soldier or service member, whatever, you know, branch that they're in,
Yeah.
and maybe they have a bad day, and that bad day might lead to bad decisions, you know. But what they're seeing now is, you know, especially with PTSD, TBI, someone gets out with the discharge that's other than honorable, they're actually looking at that and saying, okay, well, why did they get out in the first place? You know, what put them out? What put them in this situation? And if they're starting to think PTSD and TBI, and now they're actually looking at, okay, well, let's look at changing the disposition, or we call it an upgrade, right? To an honorable or something like that. And that, which is how, even with the VA home loan, you know, we're able to, it's, you know, if they serve a first term that's honorable, the second term they step on it, you know, just like playing spades, that honorable discharge will trump that dishonorable discharge and stuff. And, but with the PTSD and TBI, you know, and I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, there's so I have TBI. I don't know, I guess you could call it severe. I don't know. Shit. I know you have several, right? Especially from your live day. But for you that has PTSD and TBI, you know, you talked about when the gate opens at your home, you know, you feel the hairs kind of raise up in the back of your neck. I guess for the audience, you know, coming from the old SEAC, is how do you tend to deal with those things when you feel those things coming on, or when you're in the supermarket and some asshole gets a little too close to you, or something like that? And we're talking about just in this environment that we're living in, you know, today, or perhaps the next 30 days.
Well, I think those that have ever been in a situation that has been life-threatening, and all of a sudden something triggers and you feel like you're in that situation again, whether they want to believe it or not, that's called post-traumatic stress. And, you know, for 30 years, I just refused to believe that there was anything wrong with me, you know, 30 plus years, you know. And it came to me, it came a day where my wife told me, you know, hey, look, you know, you need to really look at going to see somebody, because when we retire, we can't live like this, where, you know, I'm doing battle drill 6 through the house. You know, I mean, even to this day, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, you know, people that know me know I'm a huge TV land guy, and I've been watching Gilligan's Island lately, and I'm watching the skipper and Gilligan with their hammocks tied up inside the hut with their heads facing towards the door of the hut. And I thought, hey, you assholes, you know, why aren't you facing, you know, the primary entry of your hut? And oh, by the way, the episode I was watching, some gorilla comes over and starts looking in the window and scares the shit out of them both. So they failed their basic battle drill there, you know. But that I'm looking at this 1960s sitcom and I'm criticizing them on their ability to be savvy to go against threats, says that, you know, I got to learn how to deal with something like this. And so, you know, it was a year ago and I started going to therapy, you know, and I never thought I would ever do something like that. But when my wife tells me you need to go see somebody, and it was interesting, Ron, that when the first time I went there, I was skeptical. And I went in and said, well, I'm doing this just because my wife's telling me to do it. And I sat down, and the therapist I had, she sat down and she just sliced and diced me. She just split my head open, and she knew exactly what was going on in my head and everything. And she, you know, so, you know, when Sandra would go home to visit the kids, I lived on the most secure base on the world, Joint Base Myer-Henderson Hall. And if I was in the house by myself, I would deadbolt the doors and I would sleep with a light on, you know, so I could see a threat coming if it was coming, you know. I mean, and some people would say, well, shit, you know, you got all these layers of security and everything. But I think once you've been in a situation, regardless of whether it's been in combat or a real life situation back here, that causes you to get into a situation where you feel like you're in that situation again, whether you want to believe it or not, that's post-traumatic stress. And it's okay. It is a normal reaction to abnormal circumstances.
Right.
And it's okay. You know, we that live in the warrior class, it's just a function of what happens with us. You know, Sandra and I went on to the tax center at Joint Base Lewis McChord to get our taxes done before the stay-at-home policy came in. And there were so many people moving around in there, and it was kind of chaotic and everything. You know, I was not in control of the situation. So when you're not in control of a situation, what do you try to do? You put yourself in a place where you are well protected, and so that you have clear fields of fire and everything, you know, and that you could see anything coming. But the point being is, generally there's not a threat in a tax center, you know, but the bottom line is this is a normal reaction based on previous abnormal circumstances. So I think as we continue to move forward, we got to continue to get after this stigma. It's okay to go seek help.
Yeah.
And we can't have leaders that look down upon somebody because they say, hey, I need to go and talk to somebody. And when I see people running around that are retired and they are some angry MFers, man, you know,
Yeah, they are.
you know, some of them are straight assholes. Don't get me wrong. Okay. I mean, or jackasses, but the majority of them I know it's because they suffer from post-traumatic stress.
Right.
And so, or a traumatic brain
Or
injury.
TBI.
And
Yeah.
when you've had both, and it's even worse, you know. So I just, you know, I look forward to my weekly engagements with the person I talk to, and I make sure that the drills that she gives me to go through, that I make sure that I adopt those, you know. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, being hard on standards and, you know, being a jerk in the safe way are two different things, you know.
Right.
We got to know the difference, because we still got to be firm on discipline and standards and everything. And because somebody's passionate about that doesn't necessarily mean that they might have TBI or PTS. But I think, you know, like I used to do, you know, I mean, I'd go into the Safeway store and wouldn't hesitate to create a scene, you know.
Yeah.
And in the end, 200 people think I'm a jackass, and I think 200 people are screwed up.
Right.
You know? So do the math on that one and
Yeah.
see who should.
The whole world can't be wrong.
Yeah. So that, I just think it's something that we got to continue to get after, man.
Yeah, no, I really, that, you know, that is outstanding to hear, you know, because it is that stigma. It's this what ifs. It's you know, for me, I mean, I knew something was wrong, but shit, I didn't go get even diagnosed or go to the VA to say, oh no, you definitely have a TBI. And oh, by the way, we had your medical records and we've been waiting for your ass for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
And when you get that kind of diagnosis, a lot of shit comes to, it's like, oh wow, like this, I don't know if it was for you, but that revelation of like, oh man, I could look back at all these situations that I was a total dick, or I blew up on someone,
Yeah,
the relationship
absolutely.
that I was in which obviously Sandra was seeing like, hey, you keep this up and I'm out of here, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
And it's an eye opener, because then once they was like, nope, you have TBI. And if you remember at Fairchild, I was reading off the different notes of stuff that they were saying. And I mean, it make a grown man cry. I broke down from seeing how I was described, but knowing that it's true. So now knowing those things, where can I go to obtain tools, create tools, and start getting doing different exercises and recognizing when the hair comes the back of your neck, and then you can, you know, say, okay, take a couple deep breaths. If it's, you know, go into some sort of a cycle of thought that we're trained to do. And you know, I look at that stuff no different than a school, right? If a new weapon system comes out, if a new shooting technique comes out, if a new communication, whatever it is, you go and learn that, and then you apply those tools, you apply, you know, those skills. And you know, Mike and Brooke will tell you, you know, I was a broken veteran coming in. A lot of patience and stuff like that, because I was with Veterans Lending Group when I got my diagnosis, you know.
Yeah.
And then I started taking, you know, strides and taking steps and saying, okay, I got to pull myself up because no one else is going to do it for me, you know. And over time, you know, I've been able to, you know, assemble those tools and do different things. And, you know, I still check myself once in a while. I mean, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I might one night have a slip of the tongue over a couple extra whiskeys or something like that, or feel pumped up like I'm the
the man in front of whoever, but you know, it's just like, okay, calm down, you know, and move forward with that. But, you know, I think it's just something that I wanted to bring up really quick because no one wants to talk about these things, and it's okay.
Here's what I would tell to the audience out there. So if you feel more comfortable being in combat or being on deployment than you do at home or in the local community, chances are you're suffering from post-traumatic stress. I was one of those guys. Why did I love being in Iraq or Afghanistan? Because everybody walked around and acted like me, you know? But the difference was come back and go to the PX or something like that, and all of a sudden nobody was acting like me, you know? And I felt more comfortable being forward in the combat zone, and I never, you know, was worried about going, you know, especially as a SEAC, going to Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Libya, Yemen, or any of these other places that we got troops engaged in combat. I never worried about going to those because I was going home, you know? So anyway, I'd love to keep after you, brother.
No, it's okay. I got some folks here. I'm reading. I got, let's see. Candace Thornton Day says, Governor Inslee just signed a bill into law yesterday for spouses. Okay. First ever state level military spouse liaison to represent the spouse community. There we go. All right.
Awesome.
And we've got Adam says, oh, let's see, Sandra jumping in. She's in for the happy hour. Virtual happy hour, I'm in. Just kidding, but we know you're not, Sandra. We know you're gonna be right there. And let's see. Dave Carter says, thanks for sharing your experience dealing with PTSD. We need more senior leaders to do it so our troops know it is okay to ask and get help. Of course. And we've got Maggie Pepper says, I called out a young NCO at Walmart, I guess, uniform minus his blouse and headgear. I told him I wasn't trying to embarrass him in front of his wife and child, but he needed to go fix himself.
Well, you got to know Maggie. I mean, paratrooper first sergeant there, and you know, she's hard as nails too, and a good friend.
Yeah. Haley asks, question for both of us. What is it that we missed the most about being in the military? Man, I think we could both probably have the same answer for that one. For me, it's the people. It's the people that I served with. It's that camaraderie. The things that you know, there's always a reason why we're getting out, whether that be, you know, if you haven't served, you know, almost 40 years or even 20, you know, like for myself, I'm a mid-careerist, you know, I did 8, but, you know, at the time it was a bunch, oh, screw this, screw that. This is a bunch of bullshit. And now I can't remember. I mean, there were some little, you know, pissant games that we played, but I can't remember like how much of stuff. What I miss is the people. I miss the boys. I miss the men. I miss hanging out. I miss doing all that. And and I haven't had that sense, well, for a long time. But literally, I hate to say it, I love to say it, but since I got into this organization, working with veterans again, and then, you know, I was a little gun shy because I was that guy that when I got out, I was like, screw this, F them, you know, this is a bunch of bullshit. I don't want to, fuck those guys. I'm not going back, and I don't want to talk to nobody about it. And then as I started getting back into, well, you know, suicide prevention was what did it, you know, I started seeing my friends starting to hurt themselves, right? And then my squad leader was the first one that I knew. And then, you know, becoming more and more kind of, I guess, as I like to say, shouldering myself back up to the flagpole. And then, you know, next thing you know, I'm friends with, you know, one active duty person, then more and more. And then now I'm, you know, completely embedded into the system, you know, active duty and veterans. So, you know, what I've missed the most, Haley, is that. And I'm just delighted that I get to experience it now, because not a lot of people are able to.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Just the people and the relationships. I will tell you, the teammates I had on Team SEAC, you know, guys like Colton Smith, Cam Mitchell, Rob Couture, JT Knight, Denise Burnham, you know, Chantel Delacruz Johnson, Diana Gutierrez, all of these folks, and I know I'm leaving some of them out, they just made the job of the 𝗙AC better. And they made me be able to get out and get after the mission, and to see these professionals that that I was surrounded by. And then through the years, you know, people that I've served with, you know, in the 82nd and other units, you know, just the relationships I had there, you know, just phenomenal. And what I miss, you know, again, when you reach the position of the 𝗙AC, and you know that when you get sworn in as the 𝗙AC, you know, 4 years later, you're done. Okay. There's no other job you can go to. You don't get meritoriously promoted and become, you know, a combatant commander or something. You're done. So I knew that every day that I was in the 𝗙AC was one day less I was going to be in the military. So maybe it wasn't as much of a shock for me when I retired, again, you know, with almost 38 years of active duty. But certainly those relationships in uniform around those people and those fellow warriors, regardless of what service they were in, is what I miss. But I have to echo what you said. You know, when Sandra and I started looking to buy a house, and, you know, Candace Day just, you know, she came on with a question there. You know, Candace was our realtor. She was, you know, brought to, you know, we linked up with her through our friend 𝗕𝗙𝗵𝗪, and then she took us over to see Veterans Lending Group and to see Mike and Brooke Villano. And in my mind, as we're driving over there, I'm expecting to see Mike Villano, this guy in this purple tuxedo, you know, with these big pinky rings, and telling me that he's going to take care of me. And he's, you know, he's 60 or 70 years old. He's going to take care of me, you know, and his wife is going to be standing next to him, you know, hanging on his arm, just saying, yeah, we're here to take care of you. And all of a sudden they're charging me 10% interest on my home loan or whatever. And I walk in, and here's Mike in a t-shirt, sleeve tattoos, hat on, Brooke with this effervescent smile and personality. And Sandra were like, and I were like, wow, these people are just like us, you know? I mean, haven't forgotten that it's okay to have fun in your life. And from then on, and then I met you. You remember where I met you at?
Yeah, it was
in the shit house.
It was right before.
I walked into the bathroom, and God bless you, because you're a part of the solution, not the problem. You were washing your hands, remember?
I was washing my hands.
Yeah.
I did not lock the door.
Yeah, and so we were just so comfortable being around the Veterans Lending Group leadership that we knew we were in a good spot with an organization that was going to look out for us. And the level of communication that we got on a daily basis and throughout the whole process was phenomenal. And then when Mike and Brooke and Nicole took us to lunch and they said, hey, we would like you to join the Veterans Lending Group team, I was just ecstatic, because, you know, when you spend almost 40 years in an organization that's built on values and sense of duty, sense of honor and integrity, but also about having fun and living your life, to be a part of it. And I'm a part of several organizations that are just like this, but Veterans Lending Group is one that I am just absolutely honored to be a part of, because they live that kind of ethos every day.
Every single day, you know. And it was no different. I remember my first interview. It was my first interview because it turned out to went from 45-minute interview to 4 hours. You know, I came in with a stack of, I think it was a business plan I basically wrote up, because I came into this industry with a mission and a purpose. And my purpose wasn't to be just some mortgage officer, and it was to actually literally to do what I'm doing today, embedding us into the community, getting things rolling with them. And after I threw that down and kind of like, this is what I want to do, and then she's, we want to do that too, you know. And it was just awesome since then. And just to be, you know, was everybody perfect at first? No, hell no. But you know what I love about the leadership, that, and I'll say this, I've been around a lot of great leaders, but to see, and you've seen it, you know, when you see a leader grow and where they go and what they do, that's what I've seen firsthand with Brooke Villano, Nicole, and Mike, and I'll say especially Brooke. We've faced some serious shit in this organization and weathered the storm. It was, you know, knockout, drag out, you know, no one's going to tear this thing down. And you know what? Rally the troops, and everyone circled the wagons, and I'll tell you what, if anyone was to do some shit like they did to that commander, it'd be a hell of an uproar, because that's how we feel about the leadership, and it's an incredible feeling, to see that and to where we're going and what we're doing, and to be able to influence someone like yourself to say, yeah, these guys got their shit together, and that's an organization that I want to be a part of. That is that just it lets us know that we're right on track. But as always, we can always do better. And as a team, and as we garner the support and keep doing our mission, we're going to get better. And that's why without a doubt, I say that I will fight someone physically if they think that there's one person in this organization that doesn't care about service members truly. Yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's yeah, everyone needs a job and everything like that. But our goal is to make sure that veterans and service members don't get screwed over. And on top of that, not just about mortgages, it's about help getting their VA claims. If there's something that we can do and support and stuff like that, aka Billy Knight and other programs that you and I are working on, to change, literally change the way that the military does the transition work. And I'll never forget this either. You might remember when I told you, I said I gave you my vision of transition. And I said, this is what I want to do across the U.S. military. And you looked at me and you said, no, the world. And I said, shit, I still get chills when I see that, because it's like, you always have to have somebody, and I feel that is going to make you think bigger, make you go up and push into those rafters of what can be accomplished and what can be done. And obviously collectively as a team, there's absolutely no limit, like Master P.
Yeah. Hey, so I know we're running out of time, but I just
we are. Man, that went fast.
I know.
Yeah, Lee.
For next week's show, I'd like to talk about something that's on my mind, and you and I talk about this when we do our road show and everything. And and I'll just put this feeler out for people for next week. So when I was getting ready to retire, my office in the Pentagon, the 𝗙C's office, if you go through the river entrance into the Joint Staff and Department of Defense, you go to the right, it's the chairman, vice chairman. You go to the left, there's where the 𝗙C's office is. And because the tank, a high-level conference room, was right next door, a lot of senior people would come by. And as I was getting down to my last few days, some of these senior officers would come into my office and tell me, hey, so what are you going to do? You're going out to the JBLM area. What are you going to do? Work at range control? Or are you going to go work at Lowe's or something? What are you going to do? Basically stereotyping me as this uneducated enlisted guy that, even though I'm the 𝗙C, I can know the only jobs I can get are, working at range control or working at Lowe's. And, I took it because they weren't there to mean no harm. But the last person that said that to me kind of got the horns. And I said, something, General, I'm coming for the jobs that you're going after. Okay. Because I have the same kind of education that you have. I have the same kind of experience, but more importantly, I'm around people a lot more than you're around people. And I've been around people a lot more. So I'm coming after your job. So my point for next week's show is I want to continue to talk about not selling ourselves short as enlisted folks when we get ready to retire. There's certainly honorable jobs out there. And if people want to work a GS job or work at range control or work at Lowe's, God bless you, go do it. But we shouldn't say automatically, that's the job I got to go get because that's the only one I can compete for. I think that's a crock of shit. And I'd like to talk about that as we move forward, brother.
Absolutely. Let me we got a couple statements here. Let's see. Just want to blast through these really quick. Let's see. Oh, Keith Bach, what's up, brother? He says, great talking points. 𝗙C has a unique perspective at the level of leadership he has been operating at. It would be great to see Veterans Landing Group's priorities. Yeah, absolutely, Keith. Appreciate you being on. Let's see here. Definitely missed the camaraderie, Ed Sullivan says. And Dave Carter says, thanks, keep at it. Keith, do you know Keith Bach?
I don't think so.
He says, how many times did you choke out Colton Smith? I need the truth. Colton will only tell his side of the story.
Hey, let me tell you about Colton T. Payne Smith. And for those of you who don't know who Sergeant First Class Colton Smith is, he's a career soldier, first and foremost. He lives by the warrior ethos. He's selfless in how he does business. He is the consummate father, husband, and family man, but he's also one of the most dangerous men on the planet. Ultimate Fighter season 16, I believe it was, champion in the UFC. And he's a world-class black belt in jiu-jitsu. And he is just a warrior pure. But first and foremost, he's a great American, great human being. And he's got one of the greatest senses of humor that I've ever been around. And I will tell you, some of the things that we've done together on our global travels, it was just phenomenal. I am just honored to call him and his wife, Megan, a friend. And Sandra and I consider them and their 3 lovely children family. So
that's great.
But I'm smart enough not to get into the cage with him or into a grappling match, because that would not go over well.
Well, John, I'll tell you this, and we'll close it out with this one. But I have to talk about my Ranger buddy Keith. Keith Bach and I, we served back in 2nd Ranger Battalion back in the mid late 90s. And if obviously you're familiar with the modern Army combatives with old Sergeant Larson. And so Keith actually was part of that team and that squad to kind of bring all those things into fruition. But Keith was also one of the real a key, I'll say it, a linchpin in pushing through that Ranger for Life program that we were successfully able to deliver at 275, where we were able to educate over 250, 260 Rangers at a time, which basically has set the model of proofing what you and I intend to do for the rest of the military and the rest of the world. So he's over at the Sergeant Major's Academy right now, down there in El Paso. So Keith, love you, man. Love you, brother. Thanks for joining us and everything that you do.
Well, tell Keith to choke out Byzantians, because they're classmates down there.
Hey, Keith, you get that? He's probably laughing his ass off now. Well, heck, man, we're over a time just a hair, but man, time flies when you're having fun, and I love it. And just for you all out there, we're going to be having different guest speakers on different topics and stuff. We just wanted to kick this off to, stretch the legs out a little bit. But you can definitely expect more content from the Ron and John shows and karaoke. Hell, I even got my guitar back here one day. I'm gonna have to play something for you. You can sing it right on it.
Hey, and hey, how about a collective virtual shot of moonshine or their favorite alcohol on some show?
I'm with it. I think we should do that next week, because this week I'm dry.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, brother. I'm trying to get my fat ass back into PME hard shape. Instead of just being a retired blue card kind of shape. So I'm really putting to work now. Oh man, that blue card. I bet you haven't seen that style since probably 20 years ago, huh? That style of ID card, that old remember the old green ones they had? Yeah. Well, but it's like I say, you go in to get your ID card, you pick a number, you sit down, the young kid comes out, calls your number 34. You go in. He says, sit down there, face the camera. Takes your old ID card, gives you that blue ID card, takes your picture, you've signed it and everything, and says, all right, move out, next. And the point being is, when you're done, you're done. And we just got to accept it as we move forward. And so our job, especially a Veterans Lending Group, is to help those that are transitioning and everything. So, like I said, I was done. I'm done, man. And now it's time to continue to get after, like we're doing now, helping our service members, our veterans and families the best way that we can, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, John, it was great, man. It always is, brother. I wish we'll get in person sooner or later. And, keep it pushing.
Yep. And get back
All
on the
right,
road
brother.
and on the trail. I'm going to,
And thanks for everybody for being on. And I
yeah,
promise you, it's going to be more exciting as we move forward here. And we start bringing in some guests and we start doing some creative things like karaoke and stuff like that.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Let everybody else know out there what they're missed out on and some other great topic and content here on the Ron and John show. All right, brother. We'll see you. You and
All right,
Santa
take
have a
care,
great
brother.
evening. Center of my love, and you enjoy supporting the local the local small businesses and restaurateurs out there tonight, right?
That's right. I got to go order my chow now, man. Take care, brother. I'll talk
All
to
right,
you
brother.
soon.
You have a great one. All right.
Hey, bye-bye.